I have to say, I went to a celebration yesterday at the Unitarian Church, and it was wonderful. It wasn't actually at the church, it was at the Methodist Church, because it was a big event. It was an installation of their minister. And I have to say, our music is really... It was sort of painful. But good intent, heart, lots of heart. And that was a beautiful ceremony, and it was a wonderful experience. So, and, no competition in divine expression. So we're talking about Hearts of Service this month. Our theme is Hearts of Service. And our value is love as community service. We dedicate our time, talent, treasure, and expertise to the healthy and joyful evolution of our spiritual community, the community in which we live, and the greater community of the world. So that is what we are about this month. That is the value that we are learning more about, stepping into in a greater way. And there's a book called Doing Good Better that is the book for this month. And it has qualitative information in here, formulas and all this kind of stuff about where to give, and that you can get, as we used to say, the most bang for your buck. And which is, when I first heard that phrase, I thought, what the heck are they talking about? But it was, most of the people that I worked with were engineers who had been in the military. And so that's where that came from. So we want to do what is best. But who gets to decide what is best? Who gets to decide what we get to do that is best, not only for the people who are receiving, but the people who are giving? And what we learned in the past couple of weeks is that we can't just give what we want to give. We have to find out what the people would like to receive. Maybe they don't want, the food that we're giving them. I remember when I was in the earthquake in Guatemala, we sent all this food down there. Well, they had just had a harvest, and our sending all that food down there, the farmers couldn't sell their product, and so they went broke. And, that sort of led to, the revolution that happened down there. And so, we have to find out what is it that's really needed, which was building materials. Their houses fell down. So we have to find out what's really needed. There's a quote from Wayne Dyer that says, "Service at its very basic core is an inner choice to offer a helpful and healing attitude to others as well as to ourselves. Service is best thought of as a continual focus in your life rather than being limited to certain kinds of giving activities and sharing in relationships. It's not something that we're just doing over here. Okay, I'm going to do that run. I'm going to do that wagon walk, and I'm going to do this. That's part of it, but part of it is being in a service mode, a service mind all the time. Service is a state of mind that expresses love rather than fear and trust rather than distrust. It is focusing on meeting all others as equals with whom we share a spiritual identity. This inner attitude of love reveals itself in action. This inner attitude of love reveals itself in action, and that's what we learned. The compassion involves action. It's not enough to say, I empathize with you. It's, how can I help? Asking that question, how can I help? What is it that you need? So, we had an opportunity Friday night, and I want to thank Rick and Josh, who put on the movie Friday night. Josh makes mean popcorn. He is the popcorn king. And Rick does a great job showing the movie. And the movie was Alive Inside. And it was about people in nursing homes who are essentially dead inside. They're not dead inside, but they're in this environment that does not encourage them to express life. And so this man, Dan Cohen, was had been like an engineer, but he decided he was getting older, and at some point he was going to end up probably in one of these places, and he wanted to take his music with him. And so he wanted to go and see what it was like and how he could do that. Well, and what he saw was a lot of people, especially with dementia, who were just vegging there. You know, they were just out of it. And they were being cared for, they were being bathed, and they were being fed, but they weren't really living. So he brought an iPod, and he would put music on it from the era of these people. So there was a 93-year-old man, and they put on a bunch of, stuff from the 40s and 50s, and they put it on his ears. He had no idea what was happening, and he started singing along. And then when they took his earphones off and asked him questions about his life, and he'd been totally unresponsive, or just very, not really responsive. He didn't know who his daughter was. He just couldn't answer any questions. When they played that music, he was like, oh yeah, I loved Cab Calloway, and he did a little scat singing, and then he just started singing songs, and he knew all the words, well, sort of know the words, how we all are. We all have our own version of the songs. But so he's singing and just, alive, and then he's listening to the music and he's singing along, and then he's able to answer questions. And it's like they found out that the part of the brain that responds to music doesn't get deteriorated with Alzheimer's, and it's actually like a little back door to the memory. So he started working with these homes and getting the iPods and gearing it to the individual person, how old they were, what kind of music did they like, and then he would give them these iPods, and it would just make such a difference in their life. And he worked with the staff there at the hospital so that they would put it on every day, so that these people would get this continual stimulation. And they show this one woman, and she's living with her husband, but she's, she didn't know which elevator button to press to go down, and she was just nervous and afraid of everything. They put that music on. She was rocking and she was rolling and she was having a great time. And then they showed her walking down the street. She had those earphones on. She was just walking down the street, having a great old time. And, being alive again, finding her life. So they started a foundation called the Music and Memory Foundation, and they have a website. And so they are now, according to the film, they were in 650 nursing homes. There are 16,000 nursing homes in the United States, 16,000. So they only have 15,350 to go. But we were thinking, after the movie, everybody was so excited about the movie and what a change it made in people and how it made the people who came, they involved students who came, and of course the students were all high-tech kids, and so they could help the people get into it, and the kids felt fulfilled and the person felt fulfilled, and it was really working for both of them. So we were thinking, maybe we could contact the high school and make it one of the projects that they do for community service in high school, that they could work with the nursing homes. But first we have to get the nursing homes on board, so we've been thinking about maybe connecting with the nursing homes and see if they want to see this movie. Because I think if they see this movie, they will be inspired to do this. Now the thing is, of course, we have administration in the nursing homes, and they're going to say, like they did to this guy, we don't have the money to do this, we don't have the money to buy the iPods, we don't have the blah, 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 blah. We can't. Well, we can. So the question is, when we have a high intention for something that's really, we could do locally, we know that there are many nursing homes right here in our area, and that we could contact them and see if we could start getting this program activated. Now, the foundation invites people to donate their iPods. Now, of course, they don't make iPods anymore. So it's going to be like used, they're hoping for gently used iPods. And apparently right now they only use iPods because that's where they get the playlists and they download the playlists. But I'm wondering if there's other MP3 players that could also be used, and that we could use, Microsoft's media thing to also generate playlists and things like that. Yeah. Pardon?
Microsoft might donate.
Well, he tried lots of different firms, but maybe because I think he tried Apple, and they said they don't donate. They don't.
I wonder if Samsung
So.
downloaded a bunch of music from my sister onto a Samsung MP3,
Uh-huh.
and she loves it.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
takes some time.
So anyway, so the thing is, we got inspired. We got inspired to do something that we could see a difference right here in our community. And so just like, you get inspired about a certain thing, like Dina's inspired about Sammy's friends. So she started, volunteering there, and the next thing you know, she's working there. So we get an idea, we start moving forward with it, and who knows what could come from it. There's a very famous Unity minister called Edwene Gaines. And Edwene Gaines, when she first started going to ministerial school, she went to ministerial school, and the first thing she did was contact all the churches in the area and say, I'd love to come and teach. And they all said, hey, you're right outside Unity Village. We got ministers contacting us all the time. We don't need anybody to teach. So what she did was she went to her local church and she said, what do you need? So she ended up putting bulletins together. She ended up making coffee. And then she started seeing other things that needed doing, putting toilet paper in the bathrooms, dusting the lights in the sanctuary, getting the cobwebs off. So she just found that she was doing service and that she started to enjoy herself just doing that service. And so she was just doing whatever needed to be done. Whatever she saw needed doing, she did. And it brought her joy, and she found herself really having a good time doing that. And then one morning, she gets a call at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's the minister saying, I've got laryngitis, could you teach the Bible class and do the service this morning? So she didn't expect that was going to happen, but because she was there, because she was in service, because she was in the joy of service, she was generating an energy that everybody picked up on. They didn't even know she was doing all this stuff. It was just sort of getting done. And she ended up speaking there and then going from there. So doing service, sometimes we feel like it's going to be a chore. And that's not the energy we want. That's not the energy we want for this activity that we're doing. The wonderful Mother Teresa said, it's not how much you give, but how much love you put into giving. How much love you put into the giving. So, we have to take our philosophy from the mind into action, into the world. So there is a story about some sages. This is from the Upanishads, which of course is the Bible, if you will, the sacred teachings of Hinduism. It said, once there were two sages who lived in a hermitage located in a forest. They spent most of their time worshiping Vayu, the wind god. One afternoon, the sages were beginning their meal. A beggar arrived holding his begging bowl. The beggar pleaded with the sages. Pardon me, respectful sages, could I beg for a part of your excess meal? Sorry, young man, we cannot spare you any food, sourly replied one of the sages. The persistent young monk continued, may I ask you most humbly which god you worship? We worship Vayu, the wind god, answered the sage with pride. He is also known as Prana, the breath of life. Ah, then you must know that prana pervades the whole universe, said the young beggar. The sages were getting impatient. Yes, yes, we know all that, young man. The beggar then asked firmly, O honorable sages, could you tell me to whom did you make this food offering? Prana, the life, of course. Who else? Said the irritated sage. The young monk smiled and retorted, if life pervades the universe, it pervades me too. Am I not a part of the universe? Yes, that's right, replied the sage in a puzzled mind. It is prana or life that pulsates in me as this hungry body of mine stands before you and speaks, appealed the beggar. The sages were trapped in the argument and admitted, you speak the truth. The beggar then made his final appeal. Then, O revered sages, in denying me food, you are denying prana, for whom you have prepared the food. The sages had no answer. They realized that merely reading of the scriptures cannot assure them of their assimilation and true understanding. Ashamed at their ignorance, the sages gladly shared their meal. So this reminds me of a quote of Ben Franklin's, who said, tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. Involve me and I learn. So we give, and in our giving, we receive. But we have to not just think about it, and it is important to think about it and to pray about it because we know that our thoughts have power. Our thoughts definitely are creating an atmosphere around us. And is that atmosphere one of love? If that atmosphere is one of love, then we'll draw more love. We give and we receive. We're in a circular universe. You know, that swirling Milky Way, that universal energy is a circle. What goes out comes back. May take a while, but what goes out comes back in its own time. And so what we're sending out, the love that we're sending out, the service that we're sending out, the oneness that we're sending out, comes back to us in that circle of life. And we do that because we're here to love. What are we here for? We're here to love because that's what we're created from. And that's what we're here to express. And each of us has our own unique gifts and our own unique way of giving that gift. So, we are living in a world that doesn't necessarily value the good. We're living in a world that, values the material. And we're moving away from that because we realize that there is more to life than the material. And that there are underlying principles and underlying energies that we are able to connect with and contact that allow us to receive the material goods that we need to energize our lives, but we also are part of this process. So we are the hands, we are the feet, we are the heart of God expressing in this life. And as we really focus on that, as we catch ourselves when we find ourselves in judgment rather than compassion, when we find ourselves in unforgiveness rather than forgiveness, when we catch ourselves, we say, oh, if I want to be forgiven, I have to forgive. All of these things we can give. So where do we give? We give to life. We give to life. And then life gives back to us. As Paul said, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Think about such things. Look for the good and praise it. Appreciate all the good that we have. And as we appreciate it, as we send out that appreciation, we're calling more to appreciate into our experience. And so our affirmation for today is, I give generously and receive graciously. I give generously and I receive graciously. I give generously and I receive graciously. I give generously and I receive graciously. And so it is.